Hey folks, this is Larry again with your weekly tip of the week. This tip is going to be about how to properly cut your horns from the skull plate. As we know, if you're going out of state, you can't bring back any brain material, spinal fluid, tissues of that nature. So you end up having to cut your skull plate off out of state and not bring it back into California. What happens is if you're going to do a taxidermy mount, a shoulder mount, then that skull plate needs to be cut in a certain way. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. You need to leave enough material where we need to fix the angle of the cuts, but I'm going to give you kind of a little, not demonstration, but I'm going to show you a couple cut skull plates and show you where they should be cut in order to do a shoulder mount. And like I said, if you're going out of state, it's a must. You really got to know how to do this. If you're not going out of state and it's something here, then just leave it to the taxidermist. He's going to make sure and cut it the way he wants it, but sometimes you don't have an option. This can be done with a Sawzall. It could be done with a handheld saw. It just all depends what you have. We usually do them with a Sawzall. Even when we go out of state, a lot of times we'll take a cordless Sawzall just to make things easier. But basically, there's two cuts that need to be made. One is straight down from basically the front of the ocular cavity. If you could see here, there's about half of the eye socket still there. And you can come down with a straight cut on that. We usually cut them in at an angle, but we can take care of that later. But it's just important enough for you to know that you need to leave as much material there for us to make the correct cut as possible. So straight cut coming down the ocular cavity, leave about half of the orbital socket there. And if you look at, you're going to come straight across from the back of the neck all the way across and meet that same cut. Here's a look how it looks from the back. So basically, leave about half an inch of that rounded portion in the back there, and it gives you some thickness there to work with, and we'll grind that down as best as we need to. Just like cutting a cape, cutting a horns, more is better. If you're not exactly sure, leave more material on there and we'll fix it when it comes to the taxidermy shop. But the most important thing is obviously you want to get that brain out of there and get that brain cavity out of there. It depends on how picky your the inspection station is, but you don't want to leave any brain tissue in there. One thing I have seen done when I hunted in Canada, actually, because they were a little more stricter there, was they'd take a blowtorch and burn any type of tissue that was inside of that cranial cavity, and there was nothing left. But that's not really something we do, but that's just something I've come across over the years. But so again, if you look at that and you're going out of state, take a snapshot of that right there, and that'll show you exactly how much horn plate you need to have for the taxidermist to make a correct mount. Here's another example of it. It's cut by a different person, but it's basically the same thing. It's cut a little more closer, but there's a portion of the ocular cavity there, and it's cut straight across on the bottom, and there's plenty of bone in the back for us to go ahead and make the correct cut. But that's how you want to cut them, and you're going to have to do it if you're going out of state. When I do use a Sawzall, one thing that we buy is these very long blades. It makes things a lot easier. It's just all-purpose blade, wood blade. It's got aggressive teeth on it. You don't want a fine-tooth blade because it gets caught up with the tissue, connective tissue, the meat, and what have you, and it's harder to cut through. So a nice, big, aggressive, long blade is what I recommend if you're going to do a Sawzall. Can be done with a handsaw. I've done it plenty of times, but that's your taxidermy tip of the week. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Have a good week.